I'm going to talk about a very profound yogic practice. It's something you have to do. It's a mandatory practice, put it this way. If you're on the path of meditation, sooner or later you have to undertake this practice. In the earlier videos, we talked about concentration, we talked about still gazing, about listening, and resolution, keeping your resolve. In this particular video, I'm going to cover the fifth yogic practice. It's called Mauna, or silence. 60,000 thoughts go through human mind in a span of 24 hours. That's a lot of thinking. Why am I referring to thoughts? Because thoughts are also conversations when we pursue a thought. Have you not found yourself constantly talking to yourself, thinking, oh, when I was talking to that person, I should have said this, or when he or she said that to me, I should have replied like that, and so on and so forth. But beyond that, or other kinds of conversations that we actually do using emails, social media, phone calls, and in-person conversations. All these conversations take us away from our mind, because when you are talking, you are not listening. When you're not listening, you're not absorbing. When we're not absorbing, we're not in touch with ourselves. So too much conversations will make you restless. People who sit down to meditate often discover that same old conversations are playing in their mind, in their head all the time. So there is a very simple practice you can undertake to basically calm your mind down and to remain in a state of silence. If you recall, in the very first video on meditation, we did a little experiment on silence, that silence with awareness. That's to experience that silence. Somewhere our mind has to be quiet. We can't make our mind quiet forcefully, but we can take some external actions to reach our inner world. And here's this practice. It's called the practice of silence, or the practice of Mauna. In my book, I'm just going to read how to undertake this practice and what does it involve. Basically, observing silence is to observe complete silence, which means no conversations, no emails, no social media, no engagement, nothing at all. You just sitting in silence. Maybe you can read a book at times, which is not also recommended, but in the beginning stages you can read a book as well, not going forward though, not in the advanced stages. Ideally, we have to find how comfortable you are by being silent. When you are silent, one thing you also discover is how your mind is so talkative. So, how to practice silence? Let's say you decide to observe complete silence for one day, or 24 hours, or 3 days, or maybe just 8 hours. Ideally, the minimum stretch should be 24 hours. So let's say you decide that you are going to observe silence for 24 hours. In those 24 hours, if you have any interaction face to face with anybody, if you speak anything, basically your practice stands compromised. So if you do emails, which means any written conversations, text messages, chats, and so on, you have compromised by 20%. If you do any gestures, so if I want a glass of water and I indicate somebody like this, that kind of thing, that means another 10% I've compromised the quality of my silence. If you watch TV or even listen to music, that's once again not observing silence, because you're asking your mind to process information that you are receiving from that medium. And if you are playing video games or doing web surfing or other interactive activities, that's also compromising about 5%. And if you're reading, that's also about 5%. Out of all these, reading is okay. and doing gestures or emails when you really have to do, it's also okay, it's also permissible. But doing any of the other things, interactions and so on, they are really going to compromise the quality of your practice. So avoid doing that. I would encourage you to undertake this practice for a short period, maybe a day or 10 days, or well, if you can afford 10 days. During my practice, I used to do sadhanas, spiritual practices, where, for example, I might be chanting mentally and I would observe complete silence for 30 days. During my time in the Himalayas, there was a period when I observed complete silence and solitude for 150 days. 100 days, sorry. So in my next video, I will talk about the practice of solitude, which is also a very key practice to strengthen your mind, so that you can control it when you need to control it.